Hi, welcome to another video in the video series by Horizant. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Lease Portfolio Console. We'll take a look at where it's located inside the product, as well as the functionality in which it can perform for you in order to manage your leases. In this version, we're going to be taking a look at the environment of the 22.1 environment. So I'm going to flip over there, and let's go take a look at the Portfolio Console. Alright, so the first thing I want to be able to go through is essentially where is the Lease Portfolio Console located? Well, it is located in the Web Central products. When you log into Web Central, you're going to be able to browse through your Process Navigator or through your page navigation to the Real Estate Portfolio Management section, the Lease Administration, the Lease Portfolio, and inside that Lease Portfolio, they've added a line item inside of here called the Lease Portfolio Console. You'll notice as well that the other dashboards, the wizards, the other edit forms are also still there in place. So this doesn't replace them, but it just gives you another option in order to manage your leases. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to open it up inside of here, and that'll open the main console itself. When it loads up, what is this console? What are we looking at here? So when you load the console up, it's going to be able to go off to your leases and grab all your leases and be able to show them up on the screen. Now for the most part, that's pretty straightforward. In this lease console, you'll have the ability to be able to make changes to your leases right inside this console as well. You can also add your brand new leases as you acquire them in here as well. So it will mimic very similar functionality to the, for example, the complete form or the add edit wizard that you were used to before, but has it all on one screen. So let's take a look at some of the functionality. Right off the top, at the very top, we have the essentially the filter console across the top. This will filter your list of leases that are down below. So down below we have all our leases that we're looking at. Currently, these leases are the current active leases that you're looking at. So you're looking to manage your leases moving in the future. With that being said, we can restrict them. So if you have a lot of leases and you're trying to find a particular lease, you can use this filter console across the top in order to restrict your leases that are down below. So let's take a look at that filter console before we dive into a lease and the details of a lease. So as we use the filter console, you may be looking for a particular building or a particular criteria that you're looking for, or maybe just a lease number and you know your lease numbers. You can fill that information out inside the console. So here, for example, I can fill out the building. You can either type it in if you know exactly what the value is, and you get the flyout in order to choose from that. You can use that to your advantage. Or if you don't know what the building name is, there is a select value ... which flies up with a pop-up dialog box which allows you to be able to select a building. So inside of here I can come down, select the building that I want, but you'll also notice that the dialog stays open. This allows you to perform multiple selections. So if you're looking for the HQ building and you're looking for example, another building, maybe it's the N Tower or something like that. So I'll be able to click that one there as well. And then once I've done that, you're going to click Save Selected, and it'll store, as you can see, two values inside the filter for that one field. Now, in order to apply that filter, quite simply, you hit the filter button. It's bright orange over on the right-hand side. As you do that, you can see my list of my list of leases down below have been switched and restricted to just those values in which I put inside my filter. So as you can see, you can put many values in the filter. You can also put more than one field if you want. If you want that building or that city in that country, you can fill out more than one field inside that filter. Some of the other things that are available to you in the filter, if you want to clear out that criteria in which you filled in, there is a clear button. So I click on the clear button, which clears out your values. You must click on the filter button in order to get the full list back, and therefore you now have the full list and it's no longer restricted. So don't forget about clicking on the filter after you click the clear. Inside the filter console, you can see that there is a pull down inside of here, show button. It has some predefined filters in there for you. So the first one is your leases that are overdue. So those are essentially where your leases where the end dates have passed. You've also had the leases expiring. Those are leases expiring within 60 days of the current date. You have the options expiring, leases that have an option that have an end date within 60 days of today's date. You have rent escalations. Rent escalations are leases which are scheduled within the next 60 days to have their base rent recalculated using a price index. Next one is active alerts. Those are leases or options that have an end date within the next 60 days of the current date. And the last one, 10 newest leases. This is the 10 leases with the most recent start date. So those are those preset options. Again, if you use one of these, you can just set it, hit the filter button, and it restricts the information down below. If, for example, you want to filter on other information, there's two ways in order to do that. If you have a value inside here that you want to restrict on that's not in the list inside the filter console, for example, florist descriptions, don't forget you still have the smart search filters here across the top. But if there is also another feature inside the filter console. There is this More button. As you click on the More button, you get more fields of information, which allows you to filter on a lot of other components. So here you can see I've got more locational filtration that I have available to me. You can isolate leases that are either in a building, a structure, or land, depending on what you're assigning your leases to. You've got an account. You also have landlord contact tenant information. So for example, if you fill out your lease and you fill out the landlord contact information or landlord name or tenant contact or tenant name, you can fill out any one of those pieces of information and filter on them. Lease end date, which leases are coming up within the next periods, and it gives you a couple of preset periods for you. Options, same sort of thing, where we can actually take a look at what are some of the options that are coming up. So which leases have options that are coming up, and you may want to be aware of that so you can react to them. And include expiry date. So if you check mark that on, it includes leases that have been expired onto the list down below. So you may be looking for old leases and old information. So that's the filter console. Again, fill out the information that you want, hit the filter button, and it filters it down below. You can hide the extra fields just by clicking on the less, and it slides it up out of the way. Coming down below, the leases panel. These are a list of leases inside of here. If you want to take a look at a particular lease, you can select it. We'll take a look at that in a minute. If you want to create a new one, there is an Add New button here as well. So there is a series of action buttons which we can use to our advantage. First one's the Add New, where we're going to add a brand new lease and be able to acquire it. So that's your method in order to add new leases. You also have some reporting exportation. You've got a PDF button, DocX and XLS, so output to Adobe, output to a Word format, whether it's Doc or a Excel format. There's also an alerts button. The alerts button, as I click on the alerts button here, it'll also come up with your alerts that you set inside the software. So this is very similar to the lease portfolio alerts report, but essentially comes up with those alerts for both the leases as well as the options that you're being notified for. So those are very helpful when you're coming up with and being notified about your alerts. With that being said, you want to be able to edit an existing lease. So let's take an existing one at first, because we can take a look at the data in which is represented inside of there. How do you open a lease? Essentially, you be able to click on one of these records. You click on the word itself, any one of the words across the line. As you click on that corresponding piece of text, it loads up a second tab. So it's actually flipping you from the first tab to the second tab, and you have all the lease information loaded up in that second tab. Starting at the top, if you look very closely, this looks very, very similar to the edit form complete, where we've got the lease information across the top of the main lease. We've got our different panels down below. So we've got our contacts panel, our reoccurring costs panel, our clauses panel, our options, our amendments, our communication, our suites, concepts, and then to finish off, we've got our document section inside here. So as you can see, you scroll down the page in order to access all the sort of child characteristics of that lease, and then at the very top you've got the main information. The very first panel of the main information of the lease is just some key fields in which have been pulled out. If you want to see all the fields of information for that, there is a More button here in the top right, which then it gives you a flyout or a pop-out, which then you can come and take a look at more information on that corresponding lease. So here you can see all the detailed fields inside there if I want to be able to reference them. It's just a pop-up, so I can close that back down. If you want to be able to make a change to it, there is an edit button just beside the move button that pops up with the same dialogues, except it's now editable at that point in time. So again, you can come inside of here and make a change to your corresponding lease information. Again, this is the same sort of information if you've used other lease dashboards or lease edit screens before. This is the same edit screen that is used all the way across the product. With that being said, there is the Contacts tab down below. These are our contacts. There has been a change inside ARCHIBUS in the newer version where we can add a contact to multiple corresponding leases if we want to. Contacts could be things like your landlord or your tenant that's occupying inside there, or maybe you have a property manager in which you're referencing and you want to store their contact information. This is where you would do that. How do you do that? You go to Assign. There's two buttons. Assign button in the top right, be able to add a new contact. This does give you the existing contacts list from ARCHIBUS. So if you have added it into another lease and you're just going to reference it, quite simply you just check mark that on and be able to hit the Assign action button in the top right. That allows you to be able to add that corresponding contact to your lease. You can add more than one if you want to by checking more than one check mark on and hitting that Assign button. If you find that that contact you cannot find in there, it's a brand new contact that is not part of another lease, there is an Add New button. An Add New button comes up with a pop-up dialog box and allows you to fill out that contact code or that brand new contact that you want to add to the contacts table. So that's a nice feature because you don't have to leave your lease portfolio console in order to add the contacts. So I don't have to go back to the background data or any of the background tables and then come back to my lease. So that's a nice little feature. And again, just fill it out, hit the Save button, that adds it in, check mark their name on, hit the Assign button, and then therefore it assigns them in. So here I'll add Samantha here, add them in. And as we can see, Samantha got added in. So there she is there, and it's quite easy to be able to add corresponding contacts as part of that console. As well as if you come inside that contact, you can actually click on that contact. You can come and be able to update that contact. You'll notice this pop-up dialog box opens the contacts table. So therefore, if I come and change a corresponding phone number to a different phone number and go to another lease, you'll notice that that phone number gets changed in all your leases, which is really nice. You only need to change it once in a cascade, so therefore, if you get a changed email or changed phone number, this is a nice quick way in changing it, which cascades all that contact information all the way across your product, which is nice. So that's the way you'll be able to do that. I can close that back down and be able to make those changes. So again, altering your contacts from this view is available to you, and that's a nice little feature. Scrolling down, the next subsection is the reoccurring costs. Reoccurring costs are essentially your costs that are associated to your lease. For the most part, it's very similar to other edit screens that you see inside the lease concepts. You can come inside of here and add a new reoccurring cost with a add new functionality right from the screen. So I can come inside of here and maybe I have a monthly cost that I want to be able to set. So again, you have all the characteristics that you had before, been dealing with a reoccurring cost and specify that. So again, fill out your information, be able to save it at that point in time. Once you save it, it adds this in as a line item inside there, and you can see all your reoccurring costs. As well as there's a new functionality inside here. There is this cost profile. If I hit the cost profile, you'll now notice that you now have access to the indexing, the CAM, and the chargeback characteristics inside of this view. That's something you didn't have before in some of the other views where I couldn't access the indexing and be able to index some of my costs. Now you can. So again, this is coming from the cost section of the lease management, which now allows us to put CAM costs in there and index our cost accordingly. So again, same sort of rules of thumb that are from the cost profile in the other section of the cost section of the lease inside of ARCHIBUS. Those are same functionality that we have here. But the nice thing here is it is available to you inside of the lease portfolio console, and I don't have to leave it in order to go and put a CAM cost in or be able to index my costs. So that's a really nice feature that's been added, and again available in the portfolio console. As I scroll down, we've got the clauses, as you can see. So inside of here, we have the ability to be able to track our clauses, or be able to pull out a clause inside of our lease and be able to track it inside there. So we can come inside of here and be able to pull out a page if we want to of our lease agreement. Maybe you need it for reference really quickly or all the time. For example, maybe it's a snow item that you're dealing, or a cleaning condition, or a maintenance condition. You're always having to reference it all the time, so rather having to go back to the lease agreement and try to find it in that 200-page or 100-page document, you can pull it out and put a clause inside of here and keep track of it. So nice when you have to pull something out and be able to reference it very quickly. So again, same criteria that we have in all the other parts of the product inside the lease section, where we were able to put what type it is, a brief document. You can pull the page out if you want to from the lease. Where is it located in the lease? You can copy paste the actual verbiage right inside of here, and then dictate what the time frames are associated to it. So again, that's the same screen as the other wizards that are available to you underneath the clauses section. There's an add new. We can add a new clause right from the screen, which allows you to come in, be able to add a brand new clause and fill it out right from this screen as well. So you can add new ones from the console as well. With that being said, there's also the cost profile here as well. So you'll see you have access to that CAM indexing and chargeback agreements in case there's a clause that alters or allows you to, in order to create a chargeback requirement. So maybe there's a clause in there where you have to come up with a specific chargeback agreement and be able to set that agreement inside of here. So you can go right from your clause straight into the cost profile and be able to go into the chargeback agreement section to make that agreement and lay it out if you're doing a chargeback criteria. If you're not, you don't have to use this, but that is at least available to you if you want to speed up that process without having to go to another screen, try to find that lease again, and be able to go to it again. So that's nice to have, and that's the cost profile button. So lots of different clauses, again, you can add inside of here. Scrolling down, lease options. So very important as part of your lease agreements that you have. You can pull out what those options are and be able to keep track of them. Again, the nice thing about tracking your options are that your alerts are being notified based on your options. So a lot of people use options quite heavily because you can be alerted based on the options in which you put in. With that being said, you can take a look at any of the existing options by just clicking on the actual option itself. Comes up with the option edit screen, which allows you to take a look at the option as well as edit any information inside there. So typically you're going to be able to keep track of that, and then you can reference it just by clicking on it. And if you want to make a change to it, again, make the change, hit the save button, and you can alter that corresponding option. With that being said, you can also add a new option right from here. You can go and add new and come up and be able to fill out a brand new option. So again, you're going to fill out what type of option it is, what's it used for, when was it issued, what is the option, so is it an expansion, renewal, what type of option is it going to be, who's going to exercise it, and then what is the option available and when does it expire. So the date of expiration is obviously the very important one as part of this view. So you can fill option description, expire as a bare minimum, and then be able to keep track of that. Do not fill out the exercised by, because if you do, your lease alerts will not fire if it's been exercised. Obviously, if you've already done it, you don't have to be notified and alerted of it. So therefore, that's very those fields are tied in to the alert, and you just have to be conscious of that. So again, fill out your option, save it, close it, and then you can add a new option right from this screen as well. So again, I didn't have to go to another view in order to add an option. Next item is amendments. Amendments allows us to be able to track any amendments to our lease. So if you've had an alteration and you've signed a new agreement, or you've signed a supplemental agreement as part of that, you can come and be able to track that. So inside of here, we can take a look at the existing ones. As I just be able to click on an amendment, I can come up with a pop-up dialog box which takes a look at the details of that amendment. If I have to make a change to it, maybe I'm going to change the corresponding comments or other information inside of here. Make your change, save it, and off you go. You can also pull out a page. If you have a signed agreement, you want to be able to put it in as a PDF or an imagery, you can do that and be able to reference it at any point in time. So you can change it. You can hit save, be able to save any changes that you make from this screen. You can also come inside of here and add a brand new amendment. So I can come in here and pop up a dialog box. I'm clicking on the add new, which allows me to come up and be able to add a new amendment inside of here. So again, fill out my description, my corresponding information. Again, as a friendly reminder, the document field only becomes available after you hit that save button. So again, fill your information, hit save, and then add your document after. So again, gives you the ability to add new amendments right from the console screen. Communication logs, we can track communication that we have. So if you make a verbal agreement, let's say with a property manager, or you have a different type of communication that you've had, you can keep track of that. I can take a look at existing communications, again, just by clicking on a value, comes up with a pop-up. I can review that information inside the pop-up as well as make changes to it. So if I had the verbiage wrong or I had the aspects wrong, I can come inside of here and make a change, hit the save button, and be able to alter any of those pieces of information. So once I do that, I can now keep those information up to date. I can also add new. So if I just got off the phone and I want to be able to add a new line inside of here, you have the add new button, which allows you to add a new communication. Again, what is that communication code? It's a two-step process when adding communications, just like the other subsections of the product. You're going to fill this information out, hit save, and then you will get the other detailed information out. So always remember that. It's a two-step. Don't just hit save and next, and then go close right away. It's a two-screen process. So here, for example, I would probably come up and be able to put what type of communication log is it going to be. Verbal agreement, communication. Again, what is it? What happened during this? So this could have been a verbal agreement of site access or something like that. Again, we talked today. Yeah, we just got off the phone, so about 9:30, and then be able to fill out the contact. Who was I talking with? Oh, I was talking with Brian, and Brian was indicating something. So save and next. As I hit save and next, then you get the other detailed information. So there's the corresponding summary and description inside of here, as well as I can load a document into it. So again, what did we talk about? Well, site access, and he was going to grant me site access. So site access is now available from the south face. Oops. All right. So that's the verbal agreement we had, and then save it, and then it adds it in at that point in time. So now I have my verbal agreement of site access and be able to add that in. So that's the idea behind it. Add new communications, keep track of those communications, as well as look back on other communications that were in the past. Scrolling down below, we have suites. Inside of suites, we have the availability to be able to manage our suites. You can see there's 3 different tabs: available, suites that were assigned, suites that were assigned to other leases. So these ones that are selected in the selected lease means for this current lease in which I have selected, which is lease 001, and these are the suites in that lease. Other ones not yet assigned means I don't have anybody and I need to assign it to or I would like to assign it to a corresponding lease, and those are essentially empty ones. And then suites that are assigned to other leases or subleases means if I take a look at that corresponding building, what are some of the other leases that have suites that have already been assigned. Good for reference. Again, if you want to see what the breakout is on some of the other spaces in the building, it's nice for reference. So the idea inside of here is you're going to take your existing suites that you have, be able to assign them to this corresponding lease. So for example, if this office suite is now part of that agreement, we've expanded the lease to be the 19th floor as well, I can hit the assign button, and that will bring it down from the not yet assigned to the assigned panel. That assigned panel will essentially allow us to be able to now track that suite and the area associated to it. You can always come inside of here and edit a suite, so we do have the edit button inside of here, and I can edit the suite right from this section of the console. So I don't have to go back out to a suite section. I can come inside of here and make changes to it. So again, if the description changes or the type changes, you can come inside of here and be able to make those changes, save it, and once you save it, then it comes back to the main console screen. So very nice because I can manage my suites right from this screen and be able to track it. As well as, don't forget, you also have a add new. I can add a brand new suite. So for example, if this is a brand new building and this is the first lease that you're putting in and you don't have any suites yet, you can use the add new function and come and be able to add your suites right from here without leaving the console. So I don't have to go to the background data and go to the suites table and then be able to add the suites there. I can do it right from the console. So that's really nice. So again, fill your suites out, hit the save button. Once you're done that, it does become available to you, and then you can allocate it to your corresponding lease at that point in time. Alright, so that's the suites. Moving on. Last but not least is the documents. There is a documents section where it allows us to be able to track our documents to our corresponding lease. If we want to be able to see a document, for example, what is this clause, I can actually click on that value and then it'll actually ask me to download it. So this is the browser asking me to download it right from Web Central. What do I want to do? I'm just going to open it with a third-party Adobe tool. So here I've got the Adobe Reader. Opens it up and shows me the information. So as you can see, it downloads it off the web product and I can view it right away, which is nice. It's really fast, as you can see, in order to pull down that information. Once I'm done, I can just close it. I don't need to save it. If I want to be able to alter it, you're going to come over and be able to click on the actual document itself. So the document type or any of these verbiage inside of here. Don't click on the document field. If you click on any of the other fields, that'll allow you to be able to come up with the edit screen, which will allow you to be able to check in a new version. So if you want to be able to check in or download it, you can be able to use that document functionality to check it in. Again, documents, for those that don't know, are version controlled, so you can check in a new document. It does keep the old document as well as the new one. So when you go to download it, you can actually download the old one or the new one. So you can actually specify when you download it what version that you want to be able to download, and you can only have access to that in this download button. So check out the icon, checkout document icon is what they call it inside of ARCHIBUS, which allows you to choose your version. So that's that concepts. So I'm going to close that down. That's how you'd be able to edit an existing document. If I want to add a new one, so let's say your document list is completely empty and you just filling in the information on the lease, you get an add new button and you can come inside of here and add a new document. Again, fill out the corresponding form. You can't add the document until you save, and once you save it, then you'll be able to upload a brand new document. So keep that one in mind. So again, same functionality that we had on other parts of the lease management. As you can see, we can add new documents straight from the screen and be able to add them in. So that's new in that sort of context. Again, I don't have to come out of the screen of the portfolio console. So that's an existing lease, so that's the idea behind it. So as you can see, you get a lot of the functionality all in one screen. I didn't have to leave the portfolio console screen to edit any of that information or to add new information, which is a really nice feature. Now, last but not least is if you're adding a brand new lease, or you want to be able to select a different lease, you can always go back to the Select Lease tab by clicking on the Select Lease tab in the console itself, and that brings you back to that previous screen. So there's a list of all our leases. If you wanted to flip to another lease, quite simply, you just click on that next lease, and what it does, it flips you to the second tab again and flips out all the information to the second lease. So here you can see I'm on lease code 02, which I was on lease code 01 before. So that gives you the idea. If I want to add a brand new lease, the idea to do that is I have to go and be able to select the lease tab and be able to hit the add new button over here. So in the main leases panel, there is an add new, and that add new allows me to be able to fill out a brand new lease. So here, for example, if I have lease 099 and be able to fill that lease information out, go here and fill it all out. So let's just put a lease inside of here. So this is lease 009 and put a start date in. So let's say it's going to be start of the month and end of next year. So I'm going to put it till next year and the 31st of next year. So with that being said, again, fill out all the information that you have or that you want to track inside of here and be able to save it. So I'm going to be able to, oh, I forgot the building. So I'm going to fill out the building inside of here. So fill out the corresponding building. It's a bare minimum, just trying to get the lease in so you can see it. Once we fill that information in, it does take you immediately over to the second tab, and that's what I wanted to showcase. So fill out the main lease information, takes you to the second tab, and then you can start adding all the child information. So again, that main lease code has to exist first before you can start assigning all these different items to that corresponding lease. So that's why you have to add that front dialog up first and fill it out first before you come and start assigning it. Then you can start using the add new buttons all the way down and start adding your new components. If you want to be able to backfill, let's say you just had bare minimum information, again, go to the edit screen and it takes you back to that previous screen. So you can always go back to that if you miss something and want to be able to fill more information out. That's a good item to know that there's still that edit button inside there. Once you've gone ahead and added everything in, that's all you need to do. There is no save on the major panel, so I don't need to have to do an upper level save. As you save progressively along the way, it will save the information, so you do not need to go back to the Select Lease tab in order to complete that process. You can go straight off to another view without having to save any of these functionalities. So there's no upper level save. I don't need to go back to the Select Lease and save anything. So which is really nice. So it's progressive saves, and therefore I can always go back to my Select Lease and be able to look at my entire list. Last but not least, once we get through that, we have the ability to add new, we have the ability to update existing leases. Last thing, we have the availability inside the console is some clients like to change the look on the console. So for example, we were focusing on selection, which goes to the second tab, which scrolls down the page. If you want to change that look and feel, there's actually a button in the very top called Display Mode. And in this display mode, we have the ability to be able to change the look and the feel of the console. So you may be able to track all that information, or you may be able to track different subset. So maybe you're looking for more of a basic lease management aspect. So that may be more, for example, of a basic, or you're dealing with tabs. You really like the old methodology back from the wizard where we're going through the different tabs, and you want to be able to use that function, and that's more like a multi-tab. So let's take a look. Let's try each one. Let's take a look at what each one looks like. I'm going to start with the multi-tab. So as I click on the multi-tab, it be able to change my second tab. So here, for example, if I go back to my lease and be able to select a lease, when I select one of these leases inside of here, when it's set to multi-tab, you'll notice that it loads the general lease information across the top. But now, instead of scrolling down the page through the different panels, it creates different tabs inside of each one of these leases. So here, now I can go to the reoccurring costs, the clauses. You'll also notice that it is a free-flowing selection, so I can free click any tab that I want. So it's actually very similar to the portfolio dashboard where we could have clicked any tab, but versus the wizard where it's actually workflow enforced. So I can click any tab inside of here, go straight to that piece of information based on what I want to look at. Again, the panels are the exact same that I've already explained out, so there's nothing different about that. It's just it scrolls across the page rather than down the page. And you must be able to select which tab you want to go into in order to view what information. So that's the tabs. Again, I'm going to go back to the Select Lease list. Inside of there, I'm going to switch it from multi-tab to basic. So let's take a look at the last feature, basic. And that basic will switch the corresponding aspects to just a basic criteria. So I just have context, reoccurring costs. I don't have options, amendments, documents, and so on and so forth. So it just restricts it down to a bare minimum. So if you don't do a heavy lease management and you just want some bare basics, again, that might be a feature for you to kind of alleviate all those extra features that are in there. So that's what that's used for. And again, if you want to get it back to the full list like we had it before, again, go back to the Select Lease tab, go to that pull down menu, click on full, and once you do, then you get the scrolling down the page again. So again, that's a personal opinion. You guys can choose whichever one that you want inside there. At least it gives you some options based on the way that you guys like it, based on how you guys manage leases and want to be able to grab and pull and update your information. So that's pretty much the end of the lease portfolio console. As you can see, lots you can do inside of here. I never left the screen to edit any of that information, which was really nice. Allows me to take a look at information very, very quickly. I can filter on my information that I'm looking for. I can find my leases very quickly. I have an alert base, so therefore I can be notified of leases that are coming up due or options that are coming up due that I have to be worried about. And then be able to go into your corresponding lease and then be able to manage your leases all on the one screen and all the child information. So that's what is the power and the pros are to the lease portfolio console. So hopefully that helps you out in starting to adapt that lease portfolio console and starting to use it as part of your day-to-day item. And that concludes the session for the Lease Portfolio Console. Hopefully that helps you out and being able to use that product as part of your day-to-day routine, and you'll be able to track your leases accordingly. So thanks for listening for this video in the video series from Horizon. Watch for the next video, and thanks for listening. Take care. Bye for now.